here are some Russian, I guess, models slash influencers cutting up their bags in response to this. And I get the only reason I find this fascinating is because this seems like something the American right would do. And it's mirrored here in Russia.
Expensive Chanel bags.
Chanel, давай, до свидания.
In protest of being banned from new purchases by the designer brand. Moscow models and influencers have accused the company of Russiaphobia after Chanel pulled out of the country.
Oh my God, that's hard to watch. That's a pretty
Chanel
bag.
has also asked Russians on shopping trips abroad to sign pledges saying they won't wear or display the brand in Russia. Russian TV presenter and actress Marina Ermoshkina said that,
if owning Chanel means selling my motherland, then I don't.
Oh my God!
She's got
other
what are
Russian
those
women
like
to do the same.
Huge scissors. I can't
those
even.
clippers that you used to like cut
Garden
garden
shears.
shears. Yeah.
That's effective. God, what a mistake.
They're hardcore though. You know, Americans barely wanted to like destroy their Keurigs. These are expensive bags, assuming they're real. You know, no offense to anybody. You gotta assume that they're real.
Person or entity.
All right. So anyway, that's interesting to me because, right, like we're currently seeing a right-wing push against Disney here in this country. There's been like destruction of woke products by right-wingers before, the burning of Kaepernick jerseys, other things like that. That was particularly sad because those bags are beautiful, but it's also idiotic because I'm sure like they would be vintage if you just held on to them and sold them later in life. But regardless, it also is like brings up a meta conversation about how, yeah, these are like, nationalists and I don't agree with their politics, but so many ways registering your protests against a government action is so much in our like capitalist society, in a neoliberal society. Most people express that agency through consumerism and commodities because we have like not really been able to we've undercut forms of connection and stuff like that, and that manifests itself on the right as well.
It's interesting because a couple of weeks ago I spoke with a Russian socialist writer, Yegor Kotkin, who's a big fan of this show. You guys should reach out to him and have him on. He's really good. He basically told me just how far Russia has gone to basically integrate like American right-wing culture into their own. And he was explaining to me how like, he used the example of like in the Russian Orthodox Church, family value something that was ever a part of it historically. And then all of a sudden, as the US right wing started to integrate more into Russian, culture, the connections there, all of a sudden in Russia, they're talking about family values and the family. And it's like, he's like, this is not a thing that happened here without the influence from like the US. And further, you see it here with this whole cutting of the Chanel bags. I mean, this is something that the American right does to
Putin said cancel culture. Putin said cancel culture the other day about J.K. Rowling. I mean, a lot of this like cultural grievance. It repeats itself. It replicates. It's copied. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. And it's on purpose.
Right. And it's funny because, here, American liberals, you constantly hear them say how, like, Putin's pulling the strings behind every bad thing that happens here. You heard it with Trump. You heard it with anything. Anytime anything happened with the right, American liberals automatically like, oh, it's Putin's influence. And the funny thing is, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. Like the American right wing is doing all of this on their own. They're the groundbreakers. They're the forefathers of all this right wing, all this right wing rhetoric that goes around the globe, and you can just see it in Russia. Like you could see it elsewhere, like in Brazil.
I can't let you spread FUD about America, Matt. The only thing America exports overseas is freedom. We don't export bad ideas or war or instruments of war, just freedom.
Yeah.
Does this make anybody question like what the use of sanctions are? Like, it's basically it's fostering nationalism. Like I feel like
I don't think that's a sanction though. That's just Chanel making
but
making
like
a
ultimately
statement.
like those appeals from those influencers are like, look at us, I'm a Russian, you're a Russian, we're all being attacked as Russians. And I think it's like the Chanel thing's funny because it's rich people and who cares. But ultimately, like I just think like the McDonald's pulling out, right? Is that having any positive effect to bring this
no, I hear you.
thing to an end? I just think like, I don't know. It's very. I just don't quite understand what the point of all this is.
Well, it's
I mean, get those numbers up.
Go on.
Get those TikTok numbers up. Get those TikTok subscribers up. I mean, it's. I think honestly, it's like Emma said. Like some of this is just neoliberalism of being people own personal pursuit of their dream job, their own personal pursuit of like money and influence, just like overlapping on whatever the topic du jour happens to be of the day. And so like, if you can get clout from being anti-Russian, if you can get clout from being pro-Russian, if you can get clout from being anti-Ukraine, if you can get clout from being pro-Ukraine, then people have to sort of like map out what makes the most sense for their brand at any, one point in time. And so like, it's, in many ways, it's the same as a lot of our conversations about the Disney versus the right wing, like whether or not this is like an actually politically motivated move from like Russian influencers or just like a craven attempt to seek like clout amongst like the market that they're going to have now, because they're being, many ways less Western audiences to their content are going to be less receptive to it, is, just kind of up in the air because people are just moving in those circles now.
Also,
who knows?
Also, you have to consider, being that these are influencers and not just like, random Russian citizens on social media, there's a chance they could have been reached out to as well. And this could be a campaign where, hey, can you, let's do this and send a message to any American company that thinks they want to pull this off next.
And also, it just seems like promotion for Chanel, which like these companies are moral abominations, regardless of if they're selling to Russians or not. Like here's from 2018 wake up call as luxury fashion brands criticized over supply chain slavery risk.
Yeah.
Luxury fashion houses Dior, Chanel, and Dolce & Gabbana are among the least transparent of the major retailers when it comes to providing information about their supply chain. Like I just. Like this whole thing, it's like
well, they can sell these bags like $4,000.
and now you get Europeans that are going to buy Chanel bags because it's like a pro-Europe patriotism type of thing.
Well, you can. That's how the only way that you can express yourself, and as an act of solidarity, is through commercialism.
Right.
It's sick.
Absolutely. It's definitely sick. And, it's one of those things where it's hard to disaggregate people's like actual care about Ukraine from like what is useful as a brand strategy for a company that is inherently evil to like frame something else that's going on that's bad in the world that's like redemption for them. I think that's a big part of like Americans' interest in the war, or rather the invasion of Ukraine as well, where it's just like, Chanel or, Pepsi or whoever is using slave labor this week to go like, you see, this week there's a new bigger villain. So maybe we should all be on the same side against that villain. Exactly. It's very like a TV universe. Like, sometimes you got to team up with the bad guy to fight the bigger bad guy. Sometimes
the Hulk is on our team now.
Sometimes there are space Nazis that you got to team up to fight. Sometimes the moon is hollow and just full of space Nazis.
What the hell are you talking about?
A lot of things, actually. Surprisingly.